Did ancient humans really sleep on the bare ground, surrounded by super predators, and somehow wake up alive? Turns out they weren't sleeping the way you think, and your bad sleep today might be a leftover. No beds, no pillows, no mattresses, not even a blanket in the sense we would recognize today. Yet for hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors closed their eyes at night and made it to morning. How did they survive? First, we need to define what sleep even meant thousands of years ago. When I say ancient humans, I mean everyone from Homo erectus up to early Homo sapiens. That's 2 million years ago all the way to 200,000. Different species, different brains, different bodies. But one shared problem. Sleep is the most vulnerable thing any animal can possibly do on this planet. Your eyes are closed, your muscles relaxed, your reaction time essentially zero. Perfect for a modern bedroom. But for an ancient human sleeping on the open savanna, that isn't safety. That's basically a menu. But here's the thing. Our ancestors lived inside what biologists call a super predator problem every single night. Leopards, lions, hyenas, saber-toothed cats in earlier periods, even large snakes, all of them active at night. All of them with better night vision than us, all of them hungry, all of them hunting. There were no walls, no doors, no soft surface anywhere on the planet that hadn't grown there naturally. Grass, dirt, stone, moss, that was the entire material world our ancestors had to work with. The question isn't about comfort, it's survival. How did a slow, delicious primate survive 8 hours unconscious every night? The obvious answer, they slept on the ground, is almost totally wrong. Ground sleep is a death sentence. Studies show sleeping primates on the African savanna are attacked by predators at rates that wipe out entire populations. A leopard doesn't fight a chimpanzee. It finds one asleep on a branch and drags it away silently. So, what did our closest relatives do? Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, all great apes build a fresh nest every night. Turns out they don't reuse them. They climb into trees at dusk and bend branches into a springy platform. Then they layer leaves for softness and sleep about 10 meters off the ground, safe above the world below. Anthropologists have studied more than 180 of these nests. They're not lazy, they're engineered. Each nest has a rim to keep the ape from rolling out and a mattress layer for softness. They're often built downwind of predator scent trails. This isn't laziness, this is architecture in the treetops. For a long time, our ancestors did the same. Early hominins slept in trees for millions of years. The tree nest hypothesis is boring but strong. Up in branches, you're safe from ground predators lurking below. You're above the mosquitoes, out of the mud. Sleep in a tree and you might actually wake up alive. But at some point our ancestors climbed down from the safety of trees, and that changed everything about sleep. The turning point is probably Homo erectus, about 1.5 million years ago. The body starts changing. Erectus had a taller body, longer legs, and a foot built for walking, not for climbing trees anymore. Sleeping in trees was getting awkward. And Erectus had something no ancestor had ever really controlled before: fire. When fire first got controlled is still argued, but by a million years ago there's solid evidence: hearths, charred bones, ash layers inside caves. Fire changed the entire calculation of night for our ancestors. Because fire is a portable predator repellent. Leopards do not walk into flames. Hyenas back off from smoke. A single glowing ember at the edge of a sleeping group is worth more than any stone weapon.
Scientists found that even modern lions avoid burning coals at distances of 30 meters or sometimes more. So Homo erectus could finally do something no primate before had ever done safely: sleep on the ground, around the fire, in a group. And once that became possible, natural selection got straight to work, because sleep is expensive. Every hour you're asleep is an hour you're not eating, mating, or watching. If fire made sleep safer, evolution could afford to make it shorter, deeper, and much more efficient overall. More REM per minute, less time unconscious overall. This is where our sleep diverges from every ape. Fire explains part of it, but not why we sleep so weirdly little compared to any other ape today. Look at the numbers. Chimpanzees sleep about 9 to 10 hours a night, some studies push 11. Gorillas about the same. Orangutans sleep over 12 hours. Humans on average sleep only about 7 hours. That is the shortest sleep of any primate on the entire planet.
Not by a little, by a lot. And we cram more REM sleep, the dream stage, into that shorter window than any other ape does. It's like we compressed 9 hours of ape sleep into 7 human hours and kept most of the value. But shorter sleep only works if you're safe. And here's where it gets interesting, because even fire has limits. Predators still test the edges of camps. Fires die down in the middle of the night. Someone stays awake. Enter the Sentinel hypothesis. Researchers followed the Hadza, a group of hunter-gatherers in Tanzania whose lifestyle overlaps ancient patterns. They watched people sleep for weeks, and they found something remarkable about how the group actually rested. At any given moment through the whole night, at least one person in the group was awake. Not on purpose, not on a shift, just statistically, someone happened to be up at that hour.
An older person with lighter sleep at 3. A young mother nursing at 1. A teenager past midnight. A hunter waking at 4 to check the fire. Out of 33 people watched across 3 whole weeks, only about 18 minutes existed where everyone was fully asleep at the same time. Just 18 minutes. That means the group has passive protection. No shift schedule required. Different sleep timing naturally created a watch. The old people, whose sleep is famously light and fragmented, aren't broken. They're the actual security system. Turns out, grandma waking up at 4 a.m. is not a bug. It's actually a critical feature. And that staggered ancient pattern reveals something genuinely uncomfortable about modern insomnia, and I'll show you why. But before we get to that, let's talk about what our ancestors actually slept on. The archaeology is stunning. In 2011, at a South African site called Sibudu Cave, scientists found the oldest known bedding on Earth. 77,000 years old. Layers of plant material carefully arranged, with sage grass on top and ash beneath. And the ash wasn't accidental. It was placed there on purpose. Why? Because ash is a natural insecticide. It repels ticks, fleas, biting insects. Below the ash was harder material, sometimes stone flake debris pressed flat. So the sleeping platform was engineered. Bug repellent below, soft aromatic grass above. These were real mattresses essentially. Some plant species chosen had mild sedative and mosquito repellent properties. Real mattresses, just made from what the landscape offered. Other sites show similar patterns. Communal sleeping areas swept clean, then relayered. Hides from hunted animals used as covers. Moss, dry leaves, grass bundles. In colder regions later on, dried grass thick enough to sink into for warmth. In the Arctic, much later, layers of caribou hide over spruce boughs. Humans have always built proper beds. There has never been a period when people just slept on bare rock, unless they had absolutely no choice. We just used what the land around us offered. The bedding is clever, but the sleeping position is stranger. Ancient humans slept curled up. Fetal position, knees tucked toward the chest, arms folded in. Not because it's cute, because it works. A curled body loses far less heat. You conserve precious energy through the long, cold night. And there's another reason entirely. A curled body protects the soft belly, the throat, and the vital organs beneath. Sleep on your back in the open, and a predator gets straight to your exposed neck almost instantly. Sleep curled up, and your bones are in the way. Your body wants to be smaller, harder, less appetizing. And they didn't sleep alone. Ever. Not just as families. As piles. Anthropologists describe modern hunter-gatherer sleeping arrangements. 6, 8, 10 people are physically touching. Kids draped over adults. Adults pressed back to back. Skin against skin.
Warmth from bodies replaces blankets. If one shifted, the whole pile shifted. If a predator approached, 10 people startled. Smell of 10 humans, plus fire, plus a dog, was offensive to most predators. The pile is defensive. The timing was strange too. Not one long block. Sleep in the deep past was probably biphasic, sometimes polyphasic. A long stretch after sunset, a wake period around midnight, then another stretch until dawn. Naps during hot afternoons. Even in medieval Europe, historians found evidence of first sleep and second sleep, broken by a midnight wake period. People went to bed at 9, woke around midnight, got up, talked, tended the fire, sometimes visited neighbors. They had sex, prayed, then went back for second sleep until dawn. Diaries describe it casually, like brushing teeth. That's what our biology expected. Segments, groups, warmth, vigilance in the rhythm. Self-awareness of vulnerability shaped sleeping posture. If this was normal for millennia, why do we now sleep alone in the dark for 8 hours straight? Here's where I'm honest with you. The 8-hour block in a private silent room is essentially an industrial invention. In a bed that costs a month's wages, this idea is only about 200 years old. Sleep industrialized. Before the 1800s, most humans slept in shared spaces. Inns had communal beds where strangers slept beside strangers. Farmhouses had one room for a whole family. Sleep was social, and sleep was segmented, split into distinct blocks. First sleep after dark, second sleep before dawn, a wake period between, often a nap during the day too. Then two things happened close together. Gas lighting arrived, then electric lighting. Suddenly the night was no longer dark. The natural cue to sleep, the sun going down, was gone. People could stay up until midnight easily. Factory shifts imposed a new rule. You had to be at the machine at 6 in the morning, sharp, every morning, which meant no waking up in the middle of the night and no nap during the day. You had to compress all your rest into one uninterrupted block. Sleep got industrialized. The old pattern quietly disappeared. Doctors 200 years ago wrote about first sleep and second sleep as normal categories of ordinary human life. By about 1890, they'd stopped mentioning them entirely. Within 2 generations, the segmented pattern vanished from cultural memory. People forgot it had ever existed. But our bodies didn't forget. The old firmware was still there, waiting patiently. Here's the kicker. Scientists put modern people in labs with no artificial light, no clocks, no schedule pressure. They let people sleep however they want. After weeks, they naturally split their sleep into 2 clean chunks. A stretch after dark, a wake period of 1 to 2 hours around midnight, another stretch until morning. The exact ancient pattern reappears in a matter of weeks. It was underneath the whole time, quietly waiting. So when you wake up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling convinced you're broken, you might not be. You might just be running the original firmware. Waking up in the small hours is what our ancestors did, on purpose. It was watch shift, it was social time, it was completely normal, not a disorder, a schedule. Insomnia, at least the middle of the night kind, might not be a disease, it might just be a mismatch with modernity, which means your worst sleep habit might actually be the most human one you have. Just running old software. So what does ancient sleep actually teach a modern person lying awake at 3:30 in the morning? A few things. Ancient sleeping conditions were cooler than yours. Fires die down, caves stay cold, bodies huddle. Studies show most people sleep better in a room around 18 degrees Celsius, colder than most modern bedrooms. Ancient sleeping surfaces were firmer too. A grass pallet over a swept floor is not a memory foam mattress. Chronic back pain, researchers argue, comes from sleeping on surfaces so soft the spine loses its natural alignment. Ancient humans slept in contact, warmth from other bodies. Weighted blankets, close pets, sharing beds tap that response. Pressure equals safety. Your brain still reads it that way. Ancient humans also napped, not because lazy. Splitting sleep into pieces is the natural human pattern. A 20-minute nap after lunch is baseline biology. Cultures that kept siestas kept something the industrial world threw away. Ancient humans didn't panic when waking. There was nowhere to rush, no phone to check. If you woke at 3, you tended the fire. You talked to whoever else was up, ate something small, then drifted back. Waking was just part of night. The modern mistake is treating the wake-up as an emergency. The panic is the problem, not the waking. Beds, in the sense we mean now, are about 200 years old. Springs, foam, blackout curtains. Our species is between 200,000 and 300,000 years old. Ancient hardware, new operating system. It glitches. That's what modern sleep problems mostly are, not disease. Mismatch. Which raises one strange question. If our sleep is ancient, what about our dreams? What about the food they ate around the fire? What sounds did they make in the dark to keep predators away? A whole ancient daily life forgotten. If tracing this back to our bodies interests you, subscribe. I make videos about things I'm genuinely curious about. More coming on ancient diets, ancient dreams, and why our ancestors probably talked in their sleep on purpose. Tell me, do you wake in the middle of the night? Do you fight it or let it happen? I'm curious how many of us are quietly running the old pattern